Yay. Okay. So we're here to talk about study strategies. Whatever you've been doing may have been successful for you, and I want you to continue those study strategies. But what I'm really hoping is for those of you that have been wanting to do better and it's not happening for you yet, or you're trying to be more efficient in your study strategies, that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. So, first thing, okay, we'll see if this works on here. Sorry, delay of game. Hang on. First thing on here, okay, is what are you doing now to study? And I want you to be super honest with yourself on what you are doing now. And I want you to categorize it into these three areas. Before class, to prepare for your learning, whether you're in AP honors or CP, what are you doing to prepare for your learning? During class, what do you do to stay engaged? And then what do you do after class to review? And I'm not talking about reviewing for a quiz or an exam. I'm talking about what do you do every day after class, regardless if the next class is a quiz or an exam. So just jot that down for a minute. Be very specific what you do. An example of a before class is I bet a lot of you are doing and completing the ed puzzles. Okay, and if you're doing this at home, definitely be honest with yourself about what you're doing in each of these situations. Not what you wish you would do, but what you actually do. And then I would ask yourself, when you get ready for exams, do you do the bulk of your reviewing, right before the exam, the night before the exam, 2 nights before the exam? Is that when you're doing the bulk of your reviewing? And what I would tell you, my suggestion for you is that before anything else, preparation is the key to success. When you start your discussions, when you watch your first ed puzzle, that's when you're preparing for your exam. That's how I want you to think about it in your mind. I'm reviewing already as soon as I do that ed puzzle and when I engage in that process. And we're going to talk about some different strategies you can do to make the ed puzzle more effective when you're doing that. So my analogy for you, for those of you that do sports or plays, you run, whatever it is that you do, if you dance, before your season starts, you train. Because let's say you're going to play basketball or you're on the girls CIF winning cross country championship team. You don't show up for the first day of practice not having been running, right? Because if you go to practice and that's the first time you've run since your season ended, that you're going to be winded, that you're going to be sore, that you might not make the team, right? You put in effort before you even go to practice. And I want you to be reflective about how much effort you're putting in before we meet together. Our class would be like practice, right? What are you putting in ahead of time in order to get ready for that? During your season, you're working with your coach, you're listening to your coach, you're trying. You might be watching additional videos to kind of learn how to do something for whatever it is in your season. You're collaborating. Think of that as what you do during class, right? You're trying to maximize your practice because what you're really getting ready for is that competition, that performance, that play, that game time. And you're always looking and seeking to improve your performance, to be more efficient. And so I want you to think about getting ready for those tests, but it all takes everything. It talks before we come to class, you need to prepare, You need to maximize the time together that we have because you're trying to work towards that higher test score. So I want you to be able to walk into your exams feeling confident. I do not want you to walk in your exams feeling nervous or sick to your stomach or afraid that maybe you haven't done enough and to be scared. I don't want you to walk out of your exams with regret. Because if you've done the preparation that you needed to all along, you should come in here very, very confident. If I gave each of you a test on how do you get, to your home right now after school, would you all get an A on that exam? You would not? Oh dear. Okay, but most people know how to get home. Why? Because you've been there multiple times. Do you get test anxiety when you go home? Are you confident when you go home in the path to your home right now? You feel pretty confident. You've done it a lot of times. You've walked down that path many times. If you've got lost, you know where you get lost. And the more confident you are in what you're about to do, the less test anxiety you're going to have. We only get super nervous when we feel underprepared, right? That's when those hormones start going. So what I want you to think about, okay, is brain readiness and being kind to your brain. So this is annoying and it won't move. No? Oh, there we go. So I don't want you to surprise your brain. So when you're bringing new information, and the way you're getting new information from me is via an ed puzzle, I don't want it to be a surprise to you, the words coming out of my mouth in that ed puzzle. What I want you to do is prepare compartments to receive that information. And of all the things I tell you today, this one is one of the most key things you can do to alter your study strategies, to alter your habits in order to be successful. If I said, throw away all your clothes in your bedroom, throw them all away because I'm going to buy you a brand new wardrobe of anything you want, right? You would prepare your room ahead of time. You would know what drawer is going to hold your shirts, what's going to hold your shorts or your dresses or your shoes. You would pre-prepare those compartments. Because if I walk in with this information, with these new clothes, you know your shirts go here, your underwear goes here, your shoes go here, your socks go here. So that when you're asked to put on a certain outfit, you know exactly where to find everything. When you watch the ed puzzles cold, when you haven't looked at anything about what I'm going to talk about, it's like taking all your clothes and throwing them in a heap in your room and then trying to paw through them every time on a quiz or a test to dig the clothes out to find what you need. You need to prepare your brain ahead of time for any information it's going to receive. The easiest thing you can do is take your group shared notes that you all have access to before my presentation, skim through those group shared notes. I'm not asking you to read everything because it's going to have gaps in it, right? Because you're responsible for filling those out. But look at the key topics that we're going to discuss. Better yet, before you even look at the group shared notes, which is words, and our brains have a hard time processing that, what would be easier to process than words? It's what we start kids out with. What do we start with? Pictures. So where do you have a resource of pictures? Yeah, the book. Yeah. Take your book, and if you know I'm talking about chapter 7, go take your textbook, look at the title of chapter 7, look at the section delineations, like what are each of the section titles, look at the bold words, look at the images, try to decipher those images, look for patterns within those images, look for the progression of thought, what's building upon another as you work your way through it. And so if you look through and work through those images first, and then you go to your group shared notes and you look through, you're going to find that same pattern again. So then when you go to the ed puzzle, you have already created the drawers and the cabinets to organize that information. So otherwise, it's just like I'm giving you this and this and this and this and this, and you become overwhelmed with the sheer amount of information coming in at your brain. But if you can say, oh, this goes in a shirt drawer. Oh, this goes in a sock drawer. I see how this relates to this. This goes with my shoes. These are where I hang my dresses. You're already anticipating me explaining it. Okay? Better yet, when you when you look through the book first and you look, oh, this is what the topic's about, then you go and look at the group shared notes. Anything that seems hard, like you look at it and your gut reaction is, oh, I don't think I'm going to get that. That's really hard. Take a note of it, either on a piece of paper. Some of you take additional notes. Your group shared notes are digital, right? So I've already given you the scaffolding for it. You can make a highlight, a word in there, and make a comment. This looks hard to me. Your bio buddies who you're sharing your notes with are not going to get upset with you that you do that, because they will appreciate the learning. So make a little note to yourself and say, okay, this looks hard, so that when you are listening to the ed puzzle, you're listening intently in those areas, because you're already anticipating that that might be difficult for you. And let's say you get the questions right on the ed puzzle, but you're still a little, when you come to class and I'm talking about it, if it makes sense to you and you have an aha moment, then go, yay, aha, I get it. But if we go through that period of the class and I'm moving on past where you made a notation in your notes, what should you do? Yes, exactly. Exactly. Raise your hand or say, give me more. I don't quite get it yet. Do you believe me when I say I want you to understand all the words coming out of my mouth? Okay. That is my goal for you. Every one of you to get an A. Laying this down first. Do you see when you walk out of this class, you are already going to walk out of here with confidence, because you feel like you have a handle or a grip on the material. You're not walking out going, okay, what did she say? What story? You don't have a heaping pile of clothes information that's sitting in the middle of your bedroom. Everything is folded and put away. It is more likely to be found and accessible again if you have pre-organized that material. Okay, that's what I mean by brain readiness. Get ready to understand that information. Okay, so what did we say there? Let's talk through it. What would be a good starting point before you ever watch an ed puzzle? What would be the first thing you would do? Tell me. Look at the book. Am I asking you to read the whole chapter? No. If that's your thing and you want to read the whole chapter, be my guest. I'm assuming you're really busy and you don't have the time to read that whole chapter. What the textbook is good for is painting the overall picture. And then if you don't understand something, you can go read that section, right? If that part's confusing to you. So first, you look at the whole book, okay? Or that chapter, right? What's the second thing you do? Look at the group shared notes. Look at the organization of those group shared notes. What seems to be important and not as important? What else should you do when you're looking at your group shared notes? Highlight anything that is scary, right? So you can make a note to it. So when you're listening to the ed puzzle, you're listening intently for that for that particular part. And then during class, you can ask further questions about it. That's what I mean about brain readiness. Biggest thing you can do. Could you apply that to some of your other classes as well? Yeah. If you know what's coming up next in math, how about skimming it ahead of time, right? If you don't have notes, I don't know how you get your notes or information in your math class, but you could literally Google videos on how to solve that kind of problem, whatever it is in math, and watch a quick video on it. You can sort in YouTube for 5 minutes or less, and you can watch a video that way too, to get your brain ready for that discussion, right? That will help you, because what I'm going to tell you is that time, let's talk about skimming the book. How long will it take you to skim a chapter if you were going to estimate? 5 minutes? At the most 10, right? 5 to 10 minutes. Do you agree with that? How about skimming over the group shared notes? 2 minutes, 5 minutes? You with me on that? So we're talking about a 10-minute investment. Let's say you make comments. Let's say you even invest a full 15 minutes before you watch the ed puzzle. Are you going to get more out of the ed puzzle for having done that 15 minutes? Yes. And when you show up to class, are you going to get more out of class for that 15 minutes? That payoff of 15 minutes in preparation will save you 30 minutes after class trying to sort through your pile of clothes. It is more efficient to do it that way, because you maximize the ed puzzle and you maximize the you and me time when we're in class. Okay? That one change in behavior should increase your grade, because you're maximizing our time together. Okay? So Here, see if it goes to the next one. Meh. It's slow, I think, because we're recording, but I'm not sure. So preview the learning. Look through this right here. What did we talk about? How could you improve? Look through, draw. You can highlight. What kind of things can you do that we just discussed? Highlight the key things maybe you need to start doing. Okay, so that's a summary of that part. Okay, next. Okay, next thing I want to talk to you about. Okay, class time. Maximize the time we have together. When you leave class, there should be no misunderstandings. So when I go over something in class and you don't get it, please be brave enough to do this, because chances are if you need this, probably somebody else needs that too, right? And if you will notice in class, I don't, point you out like, hey, idiot, how come you don't get this? You're not going to hear those words coming out of my mouth. You can even do it on the down low. Just make sure I see you. I'll try to nod at you if you're the only one, and then I'll just keep going. I'm not going to try to point you out, but definitely clarify and make sure that when you leave class, there are no misunderstandings. Okay? Let's go, hopefully. Okay? So implementation, read what we have right here. What is it that you can do to increase the time we have in a class? What are some strategies maybe you need to employ that you're not currently employing? Or put a star next to the ones that you should keep doing. Okay, it looks like you're highlighting some things, and that is good. Okay, if your bio buddy is weak, prop them up. Tell them, hey, I need to do this for me. Make sure you take advantage of that time. Okay, where I stop and let you explain something to your bio buddy. Make sure you're taking advantage of that. You're doing it. You're not just going blah, blah, blah and reading whatever's on your notes or on the screen, but you're actually trying to explain it. And if at all possible, put things in your own words. All right, next. After class and reviewing, okay? You want to give your brain every opportunity to revisit the learning, to check to see if you understand the material. The key thing here, big key thing here, is it's got to have input and output. I see when I talk to people and I ask how they're studying, I hear a lot about input. I hear, I read the notes, I watched the video, I looked at the pear deck. All of those things are what kind of study? Input only, right? And we've talked about this in class multiple times, right? If you're going to get ready to take your driver's training class, what do you have to do? You have to what? You have to drive. You have to practice driving. Your first time should not be on an exam when they're going to decide if you get your license or not. You should be practicing output as much as you possibly can. So I made a list of potential input and output things you could do. Input is reviewing your group shared notes, looking over the pear deck, reading your textbook, watching videos about difficult topics, using the resources. Whether you're an AP, honors, or CP, do you see all the videos and the quizzes that I have linked, right, to the material to help you with that? So those are all input. Output, take the quizzes, do the end of the chapter tests as if it were an exam. On that one, I want to talk about the odd-even strategy again. The first time you use the end of chapter test, I would do all the odds. I would have a piece of paper. I would have a pen. I would number 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. I would answer every question as if it was timed and it was an exam. When I'm done, I would go to the back of the book. I would grade it and I would give myself a percentage of that. If I got a 75%, I have to go, well, would I want 75% on the exam, right? Then you can restudy and you can take it again, but this time instead of doing the odds, what would you be doing? You would do the evens. That way you can maximize the end of chapter. You can retake those quizzes. You can write out summative essays for those of you that are in AP, right? Those are your FRQs. You can create and do Quizlets. You can do other practice problems that you're given. Look over, every one of you has a list of objectives and expectations for every unit, whether you're in CP, Honors, or AP Bio. They are listed right there. Read over them. Can you answer them? Can you do what is asked of you? For AP, it's those College Board personal progress checks. And all of this is under the umbrella of when you do it. If you're doing it at 10:30 and 11 at night, whether it's getting ready for class or reviewing, is it going to be as effective? No, it is not. When you are tired and you can barely keep your eyes open, that is not the time to be reviewing and studying. That's a time to be sleeping because you're tired. Okay? When you're reviewing, you want to be awake and you want to be alert. Otherwise, it's seat time and it doesn't do you any good. Okay? You need to prepare for a time that you can do these things where it's reasonable, not late. Okay? So putting it together, okay? For exam prep, identify what you need to know. Okay? And the stuff that when you look over it and you're like, oh crap, I don't know that at all, that's where you're going to spend more of your time, right? But I give you in each one of your classes, I tell you in those objectives what I want you to do. Make sure you do a lot of output. And then this right here is key. If 3 hours the day before an exam is not as valuable as 1 hour a day for 3 days before the exam, right? Think of it as training. If you were going to train for a marathon and you knew overall to train for your marathon, you were going to put 40 hours of tennis shoe time running before your marathon, would you put all 40 hours in right before you ran your marathon? Right? You wouldn't. You would put in a few hours, right, every day, or an hour every day of running in order to train for that marathon. Cramming it in at the end, sometimes it works very well for just that one quiz or that test. Where it doesn't work is semester finals and AP exams. Cramming does not work for that because you haven't put it in a methodical way. So make sure you're spreading out your reviewing. And then 7th period support time, take advantage of it. Don't walk into 7th period support not having looked at the material since the last time we talked about it in class. Do your reviewing, review the material before you come to 7th period. That way you're already identifying your weak points and your strong points so you can ask questions over the weak parts or raise your hand or pay more attention because you've already done a survey of what you understand and what you don't understand. Okay, so make sure you review before coming to 7th period so I can just clear things up for you. If you come in that way, you will do 2 things. You will confirm what you already know, which will build your self-confidence that you'll be able to do that for an exam. Gives you a little bio swagger so you feel stronger. And the second thing is it'll clarify what you still need to know. Sometimes some of you who are regulars at 7th period, I'll go through this, you got to know this, got to this, and you're like, oh, and then you go home and you're anxious and do a bunch of studying the night before the test. Is that an efficient or effective way? Is that healthy for your body? No, it just increases your stress and decreases your performance. Not helpful. So that's why we put in the front load by reviewing and previewing before we ever come to class. That's when the studying and getting ready for the exam actually starts. And then we keep revisiting, and definitely revisit before that 7th period so I can help you with it. So thinking about what you did for me initially, before, during, and after class, what specific changes can you make? This is different for every single one of you. What specific changes can you make to improve your overall performance in this class? This is where you own it and you say, okay, I need to do this. I need to do this. Those of you that are here for a makeup test so I can get ready for that, I need you to put your period, name, and what specifically you need to make up so I can prep that for you right here. Okay, now I'm going to give this Pear Deck to you. It'll have all these resources and suggestions I mentioned. I just need to finish up so we can move on. I want to remind you that I want very much for you to succeed and that I'm here for you. Please take advantage of all the multiple reviewing resources that I provide for you. It's either in the third column right of your calendar if you're an honors or CP. If you're an AP, it's all of those resources that I provide in the Unit Master HyperDoc. Those are the ones. You don't have to go like mysteriously through the internet and try to find things. I've already searched the internet for you and found ones that are going to be effective for your study. Okay. And then I need to make sure you understand preparing for class, preparing for those ed puzzles, right? That's key. That's a big change some of you need to do is to be more ready for those ed puzzles, more active output in your reviewing, right? And avoid the crayon. Okay. Questions or concerns you want to ask me about this, what I just went over? Did you think that could possibly be helpful for you? Okay, good. Oh, look, see, he did the secret signal. Okay, hopefully that is helpful for you. And that's it from us. Okay, bye. Bye.